We really do think of the region as one of shifting boundaries, complex engagements with different histories, shared histories within this broad region that we call the Middle East, or we're moving slowly to Southwest Asia, North Africa.
So Women of MENA does stand for Middle East and North Africa, a publication that anyone from any background can kind of delve into, and we dive into the intersection between gender and culture.
You're listening to Speaking of Language, a podcast recorded at the Language Resource Center at Cornell University. Each week, we explore a topic related to language pedagogy and second language acquisition. This week, on Speaking of Language,
we learn about the Southwest Asia and North Africa program, SWANA, Cornell's new hub for research, learning, and engagement with the cultures and peoples of the region stretching from Morocco to Iran, as well as the student cultural organization focused on the same region, Women of MENA.
Welcome to a new episode of Speaking of Language. I'm Angelica Kramer, the director of the Language Resource Center at Cornell University.
And I'm Sam Lupowitz, the LRC's media manager. We are delighted to welcome Seema Golestaneh and Alia Amer to the studio today.
Dr. Golestaneh is the director of the new Southwest Asia and North Africa program at Cornell, and Alia is the vice president of the student organization Women of MENA.
We will hear more about these two programs and the important work they do.
Welcome to Speaking of Language, Seema and Alia.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
And us, I should say, yes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, we always like to start by having our guests tell us a bit more about themselves, including their background with languages. Seema, what are all of your roles at Cornell, and what does your language background look like?
So I have a number of different roles at Cornell. I am associate professor of Near Eastern Studies, and I'm also trained as an anthropologist. So I have affiliation with the Department of Anthropology. Mm-hmm. I'm the director of SWANA, as Angelica said nicely. And then I'm also a member of the Humanities Scholars Program. I'm one of the board members there, which is a great program that works with undergraduates who are trying to do individualized projects on humanities research. So, yeah, that's my some of the hats I wear around this place.
Quite many. What about your background with languages?
Oh, yes, of course. So, as an anthropologist, language is incredibly important. One of the main forms of evidence we have for our research is interviews and participant observations with, everyday people. Sometimes they are within government offices. Sometimes they are religious figures. Sometimes they are holy people wandering deserts. So you have to be able to communicate.
Right.
And, you have to get to a level of comfort when it's off the cuff. People speak at different speeds. Yeah. Even if you record, it's different because you have to engage.
Oh, sure.
So you have to have a real level of fluency that, like a quick app or something cannot replicate in any way. Yeah. And then I also do a lot of textual analysis. So I work mostly in Persian. Mm-hmm. And so one of my projects was working with Sufi mystics. And so for these mystics, poetry is a huge part of their everyday practice. And so I would read alongside them and we discuss these texts. So mostly it was in Persian. So that's a big part. And for a new project I'm working on, which is more historically based, I'm very much in the early stages of learning a new language. Even at this point in my career, I work in a project on sort of intellectual histories of Afghanistan. Okay. So Afghanistan people are huge polyglots there. And so Persian, the equivalent is Dari. It's very, very similar. Right. But I'm also trying to learn Pashto as well as some of the sources are in that. So, yeah, language is becoming even more central to my project. And it's nice that you think you stop learning languages, but it's a real treat at this point to learn as well.
Oh, you never stop learning languages.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Alia, what about you? What's your language background look like, and what are you up to at Cornell?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I'm a senior studying health policy at the Brooks School of Public Policy. I'm really interested in just that topic. I think it's pretty relevant. Mm-hmm. And I think my experience with language is a personal one, but I've also dug into it being the vice president of Women of MENA. So I am half Puerto Rican and half Egyptian. So that topic has always been in conversation because there were always like words that were similar and words that were very, very different. My parents pronounced my name very differently and
interesting.
yeah, all that. And there were always like some words that I thought were part of both languages or were really, really similar. And that was just a big thing for me growing up. And I think when working in Women of MENA, when we were working through our last issue, which was connections, we brought in a lot of poetry from a lot of different writers and places.
Beautiful.
And I wrote a piece talking about Middle Eastern poetry, and I brought in poets that had like limited translations. So I had some friends work in their personal translations of the work and how it differed from some other translation from Substack and other like local creators who were bringing in their interpretations of a piece that wasn't like widely translated. So that was really interesting to me. And that was something recently that I dove into. So I'm looking to get into that this semester too.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So SWANA was established in 2025 earlier this year as the new hub for research, learning, and engagement with the cultures and people of the vast geographical region that stretches from Morocco in the west to Iran in the east. Seema, tell us more about how this new program came about and the work you are focusing on.
Well, thank you so much, I should say, also for the opportunity to talk about this new program, which in, these days and age of cuts and kind of limiting, we're so happy that we're able to go forward with this.
Yep.
It's been in the works for a long time. So people way before me were trying to develop a sort of cross-campus center for what's commonly called the Middle East. And so it's part of the Einaudi Institute for International Research. And it's new because there were other regions that were covered, but we were always just kind of waiting for the right opportunity to start. And, the stars kind of aligned. And also with the work of my colleagues like Mustafa Banawi and Lauren Monroe, who were working on this before me, it came to be. And so, and I can also talk a little bit about the name, which as you'll hear, so Alia is, president of Women of MENA, and that stands for Middle East, North Africa. And now we have SWANA, which is Southwest Asia and North Africa. So the name, but the shorthand most people are familiar with is Middle East, of course.
Right.
But there's a sort of slow moving away from the category of Middle East, just to be a little bit more in line with our geographical neighbors. For example, once upon a time, East Asia was called the Far East.
Yeah.
That's fallen by the wayside. So you have East Asia, you have South Asia, obviously India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. And then you have the Middle East, which is kind of this like a little bit of a outlier. It's a little bit of an old school kind of term that's sticking on. So, no term is perfect. These are all kind of constructs, and it's a very big region. And we really do think of the region as one of like shifting boundaries, complex engagements with different parts, different histories, shared histories. But there is something that's still within this broad region that we call, the Middle East, or we're moving slowly to Southwest Asia, North Africa. It's just a way of being, again, slightly more neutral if we can, and not for these kind of like old Cold War terms. Not that Middle East is like offensive in any way, but just, where it is a university, so we like to be a little pedagogical in our approaches as well.
Yeah. So what's some of the work that comes out of SWANA?
So we're doing a combination of programming. So we're bringing speakers and hoping colloquium, and we're really hoping to build community through with student initiatives. So, for example, next week we have our first grad student collective meeting, and that will bring together mostly PhD students from across the university. So not just arts and sciences, but also AAP, ILR, hopefully people in CALS, the book school. And so it's a nice place where everyone across Cornell could come for those grad students. And then I hope to work with them to develop a conference that they can present their work. And again, it's hard you can meet other students in classes if it happens, or through people, through friends. But this is hopefully a more like holistic way that people have shared interests in the region can meet. So we're doing programming, and I can talk about some of the programming now or?
Sure, yeah, please, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So this is great shameless promotion.
That's part of what we're here for.
Appreciate it. So we just had our first event, which was great, which was Margaret Graves. She's an art historian. She came from Brown, and she did a really cool talk on sort of histories and economies of forged artifacts.
Ooh.
And how there was a huge sort of rush of interest in the late 19th century, early 20th century, where there was all this sort of excavation work / looting was happening. A lot of it in Egypt, parts of Damascus and Iran. And then as a result of that, you started seeing people making actually quite highly skilled forgeries of these in-demand pieces.
Interesting, yeah.
And so you even have, and so she was looking at some of these examples, how they can figure out it's a forgery, but also looking at how we can maybe think of these as also a type of artwork themselves, because some of them are quite complex as they're doing it. But it was really amazing. She was telling stories how people were actually staging excavations and saying like, look, we found these things, literally pulling them out from the dirt. And, so how art is also tied up with the history and politics of the region as well. Upcoming program, we have 2 events for this semester. I think the first will be of particular interest to the Language Resource Center today. It's a virtual event featuring the speaker Marwan Kabour, and he is the editor of the volume The Queer Arabic Glossary. So, Kabour, Kaabour, if you want to look it up in Cornell. Again, it's virtual, so you can listen in anywhere. He is a graphic designer, illustrator, and the volume looks at the way that language is able to foster community, especially slang in particular, neologisms can foster community for especially marginalized groups times. And he's worked with a lot of interesting people, including Rihanna. He's worked on her Fenty book. Wow. So this is the first time I've had a speaker who's had any sort of connection with Rihanna.
I know.
I just had to sneak that in.
1 degree away from Rihanna.
Exactly. I'm going to have to, try to be like, don't ask about Rihanna. Don't ask about Rihanna. Be professional. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully that'll come up in conversation.
I hope so. I'm going to plant the question with some of my students and put it on them.
Yes.
And then we have one more talk by Helga Tawil-Suri. That's on November 8th, and that is called Spacing Palestine, and is looking at how understanding different sort of mapping technologies and understanding different spatial technologies can help us understand, conflicts and things, most specifically in Palestine, of course, through that method. So those are our fall programs that are happening.
Wonderful.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. Well, we'll talk more about SWANA as we go along, but we're going to shift gears for the moment because, Alia, I want to know about what is Women of MENA and how does it intersect with SWANA?
Yes, I'd love to talk about it. So Women of MENA does stand for Middle East and North Africa, and that is primarily what our magazine focuses on. It is a publication that anyone from any background can kind of delve into, and we dive into the intersection between gender and culture. But I think a common question is, do I have to identify with this group in order to write and investigate? And the answer is obviously no. We invite anybody from any background, from any experience, who's just interested in learning and investigating and being creative and thinking with nuance when it comes to thinking of this region. So I think it intersects with SWANA in a way because there's so much overlap. And whenever I get a question, I'm always saying like yes to everything. When they ask, can I talk about this? Yes. I'm always excited to hear about new ideas. And I think we started that. We had a new leadership into the e-board last spring, and we really expanded the club. And people from so many backgrounds kind of joined in as staff, writers, designers, and poets. And we were looking to shift gears and expand and look for something new. And I remember some girl had asked, she was a designer, and she was like, let's do something with love and connection. Is that stupid? Is that dumb? And I'm like, absolutely not. This is gorgeous. This is beautiful. And that is kind of what led to our spring semester issue for connections between people and their land, between their cultural traditions. And that was just one of my favorite issues ever. And so we started bringing out and recruiting for our club this time of year for Club Fest, and we have so many new people bringing in as like writers, designers, poets. We're looking to come up with a new theme this semester, bring in people from everywhere who are just really interested in the region and what they do. And I'm really excited to hear everybody's fresh ideas, because that's, I think, the most exciting part of being the vice president of this magazine, hearing everybody's perspectives and what they get to write about, and then seeing the magazine in your hand tangibly and looking through it and seeing everyone's hard work just come out in the end is always nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very exciting. So what opportunities are there for students, for faculty, for the community at large to be engaged with both SWANA and Women of MENA?
So there's different ways to engage. Everything from just coming to talks, but also engaging in programming. Women of MENA is one of the best, I think, examples we have. If you really want to think deeply, you want to create something. And, sort of the sky's the limit. And this is a little bit similar on maybe the academic side as we move forward. Just to place the place for, who do the students want to hear? Speakers. The grad students often are, if it's tied to their own research, they have the shared issues. So it's not just the programming, but also, a space to think about concerns or difficulties, that are tied to the region. For example, a lot of our grad students need to do field work to travel to the region. And in light of a lot of recent events and recent politics, has become difficult. But so a lot of them have moved to more digital methods in addition to, traveling. So that's like another way, people can engage. And of course, there's always, the Near Eastern Studies Department, which is a great resource, and a more shameless plug for, classes. It's faculty in my department, but also across the university will cross-list any of the classes that are taught. So to study in that more focused way is, of course, I think the best research. So it's everything from like, well, this looks interesting, this talk, to producing work yourself, to bringing programming, to forming, groups, clubs. I think there's a lot of interest and support that's there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Similar, like, to SWANA, I think we have the intersection between, like, academic focuses with Women of MENA, but we also have some programming involved too. So we have students play a more traditional role when it comes to publishing their work as writers and poets. Right. We are recruiting more designers. Oh, nice. I am putting that out there for anybody who likes to design. Yeah. They don't have to identify with the region. I love just like seeing artists work. And yeah, so that's the more traditional way. They'll come to our meetings, meet some deadlines. But I kind of take charge of the programming aspect of Women of MENA. We are thinking of doing some nice events like a charcuterie board event, really just fostering community and creating inclusive spaces. Yeah, I do think that some cultural organizations are amazing on campus, and they do come up with some questions of, am I allowed to be here? And what Women of MENA is trying to do is to really just welcome everyone, anybody who's creative and who wants to meet people, foster conversation. And I think food is always central to that. So I'm really excited for that event. We also end, when we finally publish our magazine, we end with a really big launch event where we welcome a lot of people. Ours last year was really, really fun. We like to print our magazines, show people the final issue, have people read some of their favorite pieces and their favorite works, and we'll cater some food from student like chefs and bakers to like bring people from all perspectives. So that's really fun. So we really have the academic and structured programming aspect, and then we have a community and social aspect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Terrific. You've already begun to touch on this a fair bit, but what are your plans for the programs in the near future? Anything else you'd like to share with us that you have lined up?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you want to start first?
Sure. Go. Well, a big thing that we're really working towards, however slowly, is developing a global hub, one of the Cornell global hubs at the American University in Cairo. So that would be, a really great opportunity for us to expand our study abroad program, to collaborate with faculty and students in Egypt and also across the, broader region. So right now we're trying to, you have to make the case and
Sure.
budgets are tight, but we have a lot of faculty who work right in Egypt. We have Ziad Fahmy is there right now on a Fulbright, so I think he's giving a talk. So we already have ties that are there.
Yeah.
So that's a more long-term goal
Nice.
we're looking to, and also maybe hopefully bringing in scholars from the region also as part of, a research fellowship, a visiting fellowship. So I think, building ties to the region is a long-term goal
Yeah.
we like to look at.
Great.
Some events we might have coming up while the weather will still let us is to do some outdoor activities. So painting on the slope is one we're trying to do, or small picnics, just ways to bring people together, let them be a little bit creative and also foster some conversation. This will also just intersect with some of our editing drafts and deadlines to encourage people to write this semester too. And we will also be programming some charcuterie night events. We'll be partnering with some other cultural organizations too to foster some partnerships, conversations, and artistic events. But that's pending. So maybe keeping a look at our Instagram is always a good idea, Women of MENA. And yeah, our launch event will always be at the end of the semester, which is the big programming event where we bring up the issue that we've been working on all semester. So that's going to be fun.
Awesome. That's great. Are there any other projects outside of SWANA and Women of MENA that you have currently in the works that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Where I'm working a little bit, this is mostly our Persian language instructor, Iago Goshiavelli. There's the Persian language hour, which is a really fun conversation hour. I don't think you even have to necessarily be in the classes to come. So if you're a heritage speaker, if you want to know more, I think that's an exciting place. And there's also the Turkish language hour as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Where can listeners find out more about SWANA and Women of MENA?
Okay, I think our big one is our website, cornellwomenofmena.com. I really want to fact check that one. I hope I'm saying it right. I should know it.
Absolutely. That is the website, and we will link to that in our show notes too.
Perfect. And then our Instagram, all you got to do is type up Women of MENA and it'll pop up. Our designers really work so hard when it comes to putting that in there. You could see a link to our magazine on our website too to learn a little bit more. I think the one thing I just want to say is that there is a place for everyone in this club. We just love fostering conversation. A lot of people come in with very little writing experience or editor experience, and they come up to be an associate editor or the head of design. So it's all about honing your skills and finding some of your best friends in this club, which was such a rewarding experience. So yeah, seeing those, the website and the Instagram, and keeping up with our programming events is a great way to keep in touch and keep up.
Thanks. Yeah, likewise. I think the website is this. If you just, I have to check this too. I think, you just Google SWANA, Cornell, it should come up. It'll have our programming. And I would recommend signing up for the listserv. I promise we don't bombard. It's like maybe once a month, just keeps things going. Embarrassingly, we don't have Instagram yet, but we are working on it. So behind the times.
Wonderful. Yeah. And we will also, of course, link to the SWANA website in the show notes as well. It was so wonderful to learn all about both SWANA and Women of MENA. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to ask each of you for a word in a language that you love, that you are learning, that you may want to learn, that makes you feel inspired. What is that word for each of you?
A word I really love is dilneshin, which in Persian means, sits in the heart. And so it's a funny word because it's not used as much as an adjective so much as almost like a noun and a thing. But I just like thinking of this word as a word, but also a space, and it's sort of invoking of comfort and a place to be.
Wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I had some in my mind, but I think one that I love is nur, which is an Arabic word for like light or something bright. And it's just used to describe somebody, but it transcends, like, the way it describes someone, it's always something I kind of aspire to be, or someone I just hold so close to my heart because they bring such energy to you, and it's just a bright personality. So when it comes to my relatives and they describe someone as so joyful and full of energy or beautiful and kind, when somebody says this person has nur, it's a very special way to describe somebody, especially in a religious or spiritual context. So I think it's just a beautiful word, and I love it.
Terrific. Well, we really appreciate you both making the time to come and tell us all about your organizations and share this space with us. So thank you so much for speaking of language with us today, Seema and Alia.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Tune in next week when we speak with visiting students from Kansai University in Japan about their experience in the U.S.
Until then,
Auf Wiederhören!
The Language Resource Center is located on the ground floor of Stimson Hall on Cornell's main campus in Ithaca, New York. Check us out on the web at lrc.cornell.edu.
and follow Cornell LRC on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky.
Speaking of Language is produced by Angelika Kramer and Sam Lupowitz.
Recorded by Sam Lupowitz.
Original music by Sam Lupowitz, Dan Gable, and Joe Gibson.
Thanks also to the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University.
As a reminder, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Sciences or any other official entity of Cornell University.
We thank our listeners.